What what made you make the switch from like being a moon landing denier to like
That's a good question.
crazy if you don't think
No, I don't think we're crazy. No, this is my take on it. Absolutely, I don't know enough about astrophysics, about space travel,
Right.
about the science that's the work that's been done, about how to get a rocket to the moon and back. I definitely don't know enough.
It's rocket science.
And I've looked at a lot of very compelling documentaries that explain why they think it was hoaxed. And they'll show you some footage, and you can look at some of the footage, and it looks fake as fuck. There's some footage that, to me, looks really doctored. There's
to this day?
Yeah, to this day. There's some when you ever seen ones where it looks like they're on wires, like the astronauts are on wires?
I have.
There's some where there's a video where they look like they're on a trampoline. They're bouncing around on trampolines.
Mm-hmm.
The physics are different in different videos. This is where it gets weird. Like, the physics are different from the Apollo 11 moon landing. We see them waddle around on the surface of the moon. They're moving at like half speed. And then you see them in other ones, like the one where they bounce around the air. You're like, wow, they're moving different. They're in the same thing, but it looks different. The first one was very grainy. They showed it on a projection screen.
Right.
There's a couple different possibilities. One possibility is it just looks weird because it's on the moon, and your brain is trying to interpret it, and your brain's going, well, that's fake, because you don't really understand what 1/6 Earth's gravity really does to a body.
It is, yeah.
That's one possibility. Another possibility, which has been shown to be true, is that some of the stuff that they passed off as being legitimate photographs of space travel was actually test runs where they blacked out the background and pretended that they were in space. And there's one really clear example of this. It's Michael Collins. Michael Collins, who was the guy who was aboard Apollo 11.
Right.
In Gemini 15, there's a photo of him in the middle of a, what is it when they walk around outside the spacewalk? They call it a spacewalk? Why does that seem like a bad word? It's like spacewalk? Like, if it doesn't seem like that's the official title. Well, it's in the middle of a spacewalk.
It's probably something more.
Yeah.
A little more syllables.
Yeah, something slicker. Anyway, so he's doing the spacewalk, and he's got this harness on. He's holding on to this, like, thing. And it was apparently just an image that had already been published of him in a training exercise. And they blacked out the background and flipped the picture upside down.
Right there.
It's the same exact photo. Same exact photo. I mean, people have lined it up and switched it over. It's the same photo. It's just been edited. So the one on the left was them practicing how to use these. I don't guess that the harness is some sort of a thing that he's hanging on to. I guess it moves him around a little bit.
Right.
They were trying to practice it on the left, and on the right, they just passed it off. But those are publicity photos, right?
Right.
So you got to go, well, okay, well, who approves of publicity photos? It could easily be just some idiot who works in the publicity department who did marketing, who didn't think they had enough photos from the moon that were good of spacewalks. It's probably insanely difficult to take a spacewalk photo. So, does that mean that they faked the moon landing? No, but it means that people fake things. So you got to be really objective in looking at that.
Right.
Okay, so people say fake things. They definitely filmed a lot of the training exercises that they did of the moon landing. Right. They filmed a lot of shit. They definitely did. If that has already been proven, that they took this fake photograph and they tried to pass it off as a real spacewalk, it's entirely possible that some of the stuff that they filmed, they made out to look like they were on the moon when they were not. But does that mean they didn't go to the moon? No, it doesn't. And so when I was saying it proves that they didn't go to the moon, my critique of myself is that I didn't look at it objectively because I wanted one conclusion to be true. And I wanted that conclusion to be that the moon landing was fake. So I looked at it and I was saying to myself, okay, did I come to this conclusion because there's a lot of evidence that shows it to be fake, or have I seen a lot of evidence that looks fake? And does that mean that they didn't go to the moon? Right. No, it doesn't. There's a bunch of different possibilities. There's a ton of different possibilities. There's also the possibility that whatever photographs they took can get severely damaged in the radiation of space, and that it was really difficult to do.
Right.
That's possible too, and that they decided somehow or another that they were going to pass off these, that they actually did go, and they decided they're going to pass off some of these fake videos So there's a bunch of possibilities. The possibility that it looks fake because I'm dumb and because I don't understand anything about the physics of 1/6 Earth's gravity, and it just looks weird because it's shitty film and it's 1969. That's possibility number one. Number two is they fake some things. Or number three is they didn't really have good footage because, like, you couldn't take film through the airport. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, people would go through those radar detectors, and your film would get jacked, and they weren't responsible.
I didn't have any film, but I know
people that I have friends that are photographers, and my uncle's a photographer, and he would tell me you can't send the film. Like, if you take a roll of film and awesome
so
pictures.
how would they get it through?
I don't know. I don't know what the fuck they did, but I know that some film has been damaged, or maybe it's an urban myth. Maybe find out if film got damaged by those radar things at the airport. X-ray.
One of the things I find most striking is the presence of Antarctica on ancient maps, because we didn't discover it until 1820, and yet it's on maps drawn in the 1500s with great detail, which again were based on much older source maps that have now been lost to us. Astonishing thing is the so-called Pinkerton world map. I don't know if you can find it, Jamie. Drawn, I think, in 1813 or 1818, based on the latest exploration data at that time. And where Antarctica is, yeah, that one, keep going right, it just shows a hole where Antarctica is. Because it was an honest map. Nobody had found it by then. But if you go back to, for example, the Wolsey-Wooler world map drawn in 1530 or thereabouts, you find Antarctica is present. That map shows Antarctica exactly where it should be. And it shows it, there we go, Antarctica, at the tip of South America, just south of South Africa.
And what did they call it back then?
Well, they call it the Southern Land, and it's larger than it is today, but it was larger than it is today during the Ice Age. Antarctica was a much bigger. Now, what the fuck is it doing on a map drawn in the 1500s, which we know was based on older source maps when nobody knew it existed in the 1500s? To me, the obvious answer is we are dealing with the fingerprints of a lost civilization that mapped the world and that left evidence of that mapping, which ancient map makers found and used and incorporated into their maps. These maps can be very confusing because they were trying to mix exploration data from their own period with data from the older maps. But when you look at these maps in depth, they're very, very intriguing.
Ancient civilization
is above the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid are 5 further chambers. And these chambers are roofed and floored with granite beams that weigh about 70 tons each. And there are hundreds of them. And these 70-ton granite beams, which, to put in context, a 70-ton beam is equivalent in weight to 35 large SUVs. These 70-ton granite beams have been elevated to a height of more than 350 feet above the ground and carefully and precisely placed in position. It is very hard for archaeologists to explain how that was done using purely leverage and mechanical advantage. You can say, oh, perhaps they built a ramp and hauled the stones up the ramp. But then you have to confront basic laws of physics. You can't haul a stone weighing tens of tons up a slope that exceeds 10 degrees. Then you start doing the calculation. How long a ramp do I need with a 10-degree slope to get to 350 feet above the ground? And the answer is you need a fucking long ramp, which should still be there, because it couldn't have been a sand ramp. It would have collapsed under the weight of those stones. It had to be as massive as the pyramid itself. So this begins to seem like an absurd idea, the idea that is foisted on us by archaeology. Maybe the idea that they regard as absurd, namely that psychic powers were cultivated by ancient civilizations, that they could use powers of the human mind that we have allowed to lapse. Maybe that idea deserves further consideration.
A lot of people are like, finding Hitler, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
They found Hitler, he died.
Yeah, I mean,
Not really?
we don't know.
Right.
That's I mean, this isn't like Ancient Aliens. This is they declassified a bunch of documents. Both the Israelis, the British, and the Germans and Americans in the past 20 years have been consistently declassifying documents. And there were a bunch of specifically FBI documents that we were spending millions and millions of dollars actively searching for Hitler after the war, as was...
Really?
Yeah, like millions of dollars. Like Hoover was like, no, send more FBI agents to South America to North Africa, go to the Canary Islands, go to Spain, trying to find out where this guy went. The Russians got the body and they got his skull. And when they brought it back to Moscow, nobody has ever been able to independently verify who and what this body is. They let one genetic test occur, and the body with the bullet holes that they said was Hitler, and have said, and that's the narrative, that's the story, that's all the eyewitness accounts that are even in the vicinity of collaborating with each other, and corroborating each other's testimony. Like the closest version, because none of it seems to be very accurate, is that, okay, here's Hitler's skull, and when they did the genetic testing, it's that of a 35-year-old woman. So they're like, oh, well, this isn't Hitler. So what you had in South America, both Chile and Argentina back-to-back had fascist regimes. You had Perón, who was part of the Nazi party starting all the way back into the mid-30s. He's the president of Argentina. So the Red Cross, there was about 3 different rat lines that guys were able to successfully get out of Europe into South America. And there's no question that we're talking thousands, if not tens of thousands of high-ranking Nazis made it there.
Tens of thousands?
Tens of thousands. And I'm not talking like little soldiers. I'm talking high-ranking Nazis. But what you got in South America were isolated German-only communities. You could go into Bariloche, Argentina, and I'd be like, "Buenos dias, amigos," and they're like, "Guten Morgen?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I meant good morning. Yeah, sorry, it's 2017, right? I thought we spoke Spanish here."
So in 2017, you were there and they were speaking German.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I don't look very. I might look more European than I
Right.
do. So it's just them seeing me walking down the street and be like,
Wow.
yeah. And there's tons of communities. I mean, if you go to Colonia Dignidad, which is now called Villa Barbaria, it is only German.
Whoa.
In the center of Chile, in the mountains of Chile. There's no Spanish being spoken there. It is exclusively German.
And these are descendants of Nazis.
Powerful Nazis.
Holy shit. Are there any legitimate eyewitness accounts of Hitler in South America?
Absolutely, potentially. Yep, eyewitness accounts. I saw him get off a boat. I saw him meet here. And if it was just some person saying it, it's almost meaningless.
Right.
But if you look at the context of who this person is, the wealth that they have that they shouldn't have, can you explain how you got so rich in 2 generations? Okay, your grandpa got here from Germany in 1946. That's weird. And he's on a legitimate visa with an Argentinian passport. Also weird. And now he's a war refugee that's now worth millions of dollars. How does this?
What about this? What if every time you went to sleep and you woke up, you passed into a nearby and very similar universe, but not quite the same? And depending upon your choices and how you live your life, it's how you wake up and what new one you pop into on the other side. And everyone's just a little bit different. The whole world changes just a little bit each time you make a decision, one way or another. Everything changes when you wake up. You think the world is static because it is when you're awake. You have no fucking idea what's happening while you're asleep. And when you wake up again, you have this foggy recollection of the past. And that's what you're going by. You're going by every morning waking up with a foggy recollection of the past. That's what you're doing. And you're assuming that nothing's changed and everything's static. And while you were asleep for 8 hours, nothing weird happened. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You have no idea. You're dreaming. You're having crazy fantasies and shit. Weird stuff is happening. You're fucking mermaids. You're flying through the air on a helicopter. Weird things happen when you're dreaming. What is all that about? Yeah. We don't even know. We have no idea what that is. That soup of possibilities that's fucking swirling around in between your ears while you're snoring up a storm. And then boom, you wake up. Are you sure those memories are real? Are you sure that this isn't a whole completely new universe you're living in today?
Or assimilation.
Or simulation. Atlantis has always been the big one. That has been the one that everybody talked about, was this incredibly advanced civilization, and no one can figure out where it is.
Right.
Or if it was real.
I think that Atlantis, because surely that wouldn't have been necessarily the name just through like the change of language, over, let's say, 12, 13,000 years ago, which would be the time frame. So like surely there would be several different changes of language, but I think it represented a civilization that was doing great things. They were more global than what many people think would be possible. Atlantis was said to be a kingdom made up of, or an empire, made up of 10 kingdoms. And then there was the lost city of Atlantis, which was the capital, which was said to be made up of concentric circles, 2 of water, 3 of land, and essentially that they were obliterated by a cataclysm, as passed down by Plato, although it's worth mentioning that Plato got the story of Atlantis from Solon, who was his uncle separated by 6 generations. But what most people don't realize is that Solon had traveled to Egypt, and so it's the ancient Egyptians is where that tale comes from, which makes it even more bizarre because I would argue that the most spectacular ancient civilization is the Egyptians. I mean, no disrespect to the Romans.
Hard to deny.
Right? I mean, let me just say, because I want to, on this podcast, encourage people to travel to Egypt. Joe, you got to go. Yeah, the Richat, R-I-C-H-A-T. It's worth mentioning that.
Got it already here.
Yeah, in the first couple, I just want to say it's Richat. I used to call it Ricot. I was mispronouncing it. But let me ask you this, Joe, real quick. When you saw my video, was that the very first time you had ever seen this thing before?
Yeah.
That's the thing. So many. When I first saw this, I was like, what the fuck is that? By the way, you see that white? All those white blemishes?
Uh-huh.
That's salt. This was under the ocean, and people, let me just say, you mentioned Randall Carlson and Graham Hancock. I love them. And I know for sure that they don't particularly think this is the site for a few different reasons. So let me say there's absolute doubt. Even I am not 100% certain. I'm not even 100% certain Atlantis existed. What I am certain is that humans were doing spectacular things and a cataclysmic event happened called the Younger Dryas and reset something for somebody.
Is there a natural explanation for this formation?
Yes. So let me say that it is considered to be mysterious. They're not 100% certain of it. However, the consensus is that it was a volcanic dome that had risen and collapsed multiple times, like 100 million years ago, allegedly. I say allegedly, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with that. I'm just saying I would like to know where sometimes they get these figures from. Like, explain to me why it was 100 million years ago and not 99 or 98, because here we are talking about how crazy things changed in just the last 12, 13,000 years. So when they throw around these numbers, 1 million years in itself is an incredibly long period of time. But getting back to your question, some had originally thought that maybe it was an impact site from an asteroid or perhaps, but there's no evidence for it. Like there's none of the nano.
The problem is there's these concentric circles. I've never seen anything. I mean, obviously I'm not an archaeologist, but I've never seen anything like this. If you study structures that are like man-made structures, I've never seen anything like this that humans have. There's a crazy conspiracy theory connected to The Shining and the moon landing.
Yeah, I heard about the moon landing.
Yeah, it's all about the number on the door is the exact same amount of thousands of miles. It's 237, and it's 237,000 miles away.
I heard
but it also,
that,
by the way, it varies. See, that's the problem with that argument, is that like the distance between the Earth and the moon is not constant. I think it moves a little bit. So I think it goes as far as 265,000 feet out, or miles rather, 265,000 miles out, and it goes to 237. But I think it varies. I think it goes like this. I think it has like an elliptical orbit around the Earth a little bit. Maybe I made that up. Is that true?
Yeah, it sounds accurate. Sorry, I was in the middle of reading the 237 stuff.
Yeah, I heard it was also possibly about Native Americans, how the hotel was built on an ancient Indian burial ground, and even Shelley Duvall sort of looked Native American. You could hear Native American music playing in the opening credits.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's many layers to it.
Yeah, he's just a brilliant man. He was a brilliant man.
The little kid did have an Apollo 11 sweatshirt on.
Yeah, that's true. He did have an Apollo 11.
I mean, that's pretty on the nose.
I just remember in the back room, in the stock room, there was like a can of a product with a giant. It was like Geronimo's head on there. I'm sure.
Dude, there's so much to that. There's probably many layers. Kubrick is not going to operate on one layer.
No,
he's probably going to have a bunch of weird shit in there.
I mean, look at 2001. What a mind fuck.
Oh my God. What a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Well, there was so much of his work, and he's the guy that the conspiracy theorists, when they get the most crazy, when they really want to dive into who did it, they think it was all Kubrick. The Kubrick literally filmed the fake moon landing,
Right.
uploaded it to the American TV satellites.
If
and
anyone could do it, it'd be him. He'd be the guy I would get to do it.
Can you imagine if that was really what happened?
I've heard all
these years.
I remember hearing all the fucking conspiracy theorists about the Illuminati killing him because he made. Yeah.
Well, they were worried he was going to open his fucking mouth.
Well, he made
tell
the
about the moon landing.
Oh no.
That's what it was.
No, because he made fucking
keep his fucking
Eyes
mouth
Wide Shut.
That too. That was his last one. They're like, enough. This guy's getting too close.
Because I think he died like a week after that movie came out.
Of course he did.
That's fucked up.
That's how they roll. Everyone to hashtag space is fake, because I've been doing research on space being fake.
Is that real? That's a real site?
Yeah, hashtag space is fake is something I'm investigating for my next hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm legitimately looking deep into
Dude,
people
flat
that
Earth, there's
flat
so much
earthers
material
mock
there.
them.
There's
Flat
so-
Earth is like, what? Space is
No,
fake. What?
no.
You dumb
You
motherfucker.
flat Earthers
No,
like
flat
same
Earthers
thing.
walk away
No,
from
it's the same thing.
Oh, okay.
You got it all wrong. You got it all wrong.
Is
Well,
everybody that
I've
believes
got to
the flat-
think this is not
everybody-
very organized.
No, what I'm saying is
I got to think I
everybody that
couldn't have it
thinks-
all wrong.
No,
There's
everybody,
no way.
anybody that thinks the Earth is flat, they totally don't believe what we're taught about what's above us. So when the people sun? say space
Wait a
is
minute.
fake, they
What about the
mean-
sun?
They mean all the stuff, information we're getting. You're lying about that shit. That it's not that it doesn't exist. Of course it exists. We see
Right,
it.
of course.
But space is fake sounds ridiculous. Like
There's
we're
something up
looking
there.
at it and it's fake. That's ridiculous. That's
just
not what
the
it means. It
Truman
means
Show.
that all the information we got about all
We're
those
off.
lights in the sky.
Yeah, something
they're
else?
They're lying
NASA's
to
lying?
us. They're lying to us.
Why would NASA lie?
And there's a reason,
well,
and
why
I can sit
wouldn't
here
they,
and tell you,
Brian?
but you guys don't want to hear it.
Hold on.
Wouldn't they?
So I don't want to talk
Can you give
about
us the cliff notes?
the cliff notes are man.
Have you studied any kind of a?
He doesn't need to
from-
be. Let's
uh,
hear just a few of it.
The goal has always been for the most powerful emperors is a one world government. They always wanted a one world government. All the Roman emperors, they try to figure out, they try to do different combinations. How about and they would fall, and a new emperor would come and go, you know what? I'm gonna fucking rule
World
the world
domination, in other words.
Aztecs.
I'm not gonna let my soldiers get married. That way we'll have a stronger army. They have different philosophies. Everyone believed different shit. But they all wanted a one world government. There's no way to have a fucking one world government. Nobody's into that shit.
Right.
Not even other rulers from small countries are like, one world government, that's gonna put me out of a job. Fuck your one world government. People that don't know shit about politics don't want a one world government. There's no way you're gonna sell a one world government. It's impossible. The only way to make a one world government work is to have the people embrace it. They have to want it because nobody wants it. So the trick is to make people want it, to embrace it. There's only one way.
I gotta pee.
There's only
Hold
one
on,
way.
Joe. This is very
You're gonna
important.
miss
I've
out
heard
on
this. I know this. I know this.
Okay, I don't know.
The
that.
only way, and they've known this forever. The Vatican knew this. The Vatican, the Pope wanted to rule the world. They all knew it, but they couldn't do it. They all knew it, but they knew one way, but there's no way how they're
What's
going to
the
pull it
one
off.
way, man?
The only way is if there was some extraterrestrial threat from up above us. That would be the only way to have everyone embrace the one world government. They all knew that for years.
But it didn't work
That's
so
the
far.
plan. They could never
It's a
make
shitty
it
plan,
work.
though.
They didn't have the technology 500 years ago. The Vatican knew about it. They wanted it. And you go to the Vatican, you see paintings of like
Have you been there?
UFOs with aliens in them. And back when I used to believe in UFOs, but before I figured out that UFOs they want us to believe in UFOs. They're preparing us for a fake alien invasion. That's always been the plan. A one world government. The only way to
freak
do
out.
it is to get us to embrace it. And the only way to embrace it is from an alien attack. Ronald Reagan talked about it many times at the UN, CFR. He talked about it because wouldn't it make, he looked at all the leaders of the nation, of the world, and said, wouldn't it make our lives easier if we just had some kind of extraterrestrial threat? He said that shit. He said that in front of the UN. Like he's trying to get everybody into
I don't think he ever said that,
believing. No, he said that many times. It's on video many times.
Ronald Reagan?
And what Ronald
Ever
Reagan?
heard of him,
and
Brian?
while-
Ever heard
I've
of him?
listened to
George
a lot of
Bush
speeches.
was vice president.
Right.
He was talking about, and there's many videos of him saying, what lies before us. He's in front of the nation doing a State of the Union address, saying what lies before us is the opportunity to forge a new world order, an order. Because he's talking about like
Do you think that means the space is fake?
Yes.
No. When people ask me why would they fake space, it's always been about a fake alien attack. You can't have a fake alien attack.
I've never heard a politician ever talk
You can't
about
have
a fake alien
attack
attack, though.
without space.
But I've never heard a politician
You
talk
have to have
about
space first. So they always, you know who promoted space more than anybody? Who wanted
Nazis.
Who wanted
Scientists.
Nazis?
Russians.
But before the Nazis, you know who
Cavemen.
wanted space?
Aztecs.
No, the Vatican.
Mayans.
The Vatican. They have all the biggest. They have all the astronomers. They're all Jesuit Vaticans. All of them. All the ones that are giving us this information about space. They all come from the Vatican. The Vatican has the most
But the
powerful
Vatican said
telescope.
that the
You
Earth-
know what the name of the
Wait a minute. The
telescope
Vatican
is?
doesn't have the most powerful
Yes, they
telescope.
do. You know what its name is?
What is
Teresa?
it
The
called?
most powerful telescope, the Vatican. And you know what name it is? I've
What?
done the research on YouTube.
on
I have the
YouTube.
links. You know what the name of this? Do you know
Isn't
what the
the biggest
name
one in
of
Chile?
this? The most powerful telescope in the world. It's in the Vatican.
What
Do
is
you
it?
know the Lucifer?
Lucifer's
What?
dick balls.
Lucifer?
Lucifer's dick and balls.
I've never seen this fucking telescope.
Yeah, it's legit, dude. I think the biggest one's in Chile. I think they have to be in high
It's in
altitude.
the Vatican.
Yeah, I don't think it's in the Vatican.
You guys didn't. So when people ask me why would they fake all this shit?
Well, I don't think that's the biggest telescope,
This
Eddie.
is just a crazy theory.
It certainly is.
We're
Now,
talking
I've
a
never
theory.
heard-
Here's
It's
the
funny.
thing, these
it's a funny theory.
But Eddie, these new Chile very large array telescopes that they're creating are fucking gigantic, and they
These
take
guys
over
know.
enormous
Hey,
pieces
listen,
of land.
Listen, I
For-
was with you.
Google
I
the
was with
very
you.
large
Listen, I was with
array.
you. It's called the Very Large Telescope. I watched the documentary with you at your house. It was like 2001, and
Yeah, I
it said in
think-
5 years
Yeah.
there's a documentary about them putting together the Very Large Telescope in Chile, and they're talking about by the year 2005 we're gonna have 3 telescopes linked with a computer to make us. We're gonna see further into space than ever before. None of that shit came.
What are you talking about?
None
I
of
think-
that shit came.
I feel like we're at this cusp of something very strange happening. Like we're in the middle of it right now, but we're at the cusp of something very strange, where all it would take is one massive world event, to completely remap how we view each other and how we view things. It's very disconcerting to me.
I mean, it feels like without that one big world event, we're not that far away from that right now.
Right.
There are parallel universes right now that exist on things that you would have thought everyone can accept as a basic fact.
Like what?
You know, I mean, Syria.
Yeah.
You know, the white helmets. There are some fairly serious people saying the white helmets are, you know, some kind of media front for Al Qaeda or Al Nusra.
Would you
know.
explain the white helmets for people?
So when there's a bombing and a building collapses, they go in and drag people out and get them medical attention as quick as possible.
And people think that they're somehow or another involved in it. They're a front.
Yeah, and the footage is faked in order to drum up sympathy for the rebel-held areas. I mean, I've heard, you know, serious people say that.
Serious people?
Yeah, not loons on Facebook. I've heard, you know,
Like journalists or
yeah. I mean, Seymour Hersh, I think, has walked it back a little bit since, but he said that in the early days.
Why do you think he believed it?
I read a really interesting article about him just a few days ago. Where was it? I forget what it was. It was, you know, the not expose, but a really good look at him. And I think he's just spent his career believing rightly that the government lies about all kinds of things, and that's got him into a point where he thinks, well, they always lie, no matter what. It's happened to a lot of journalists. Robert Fisk, Seymour Hersh, Martha Gellhorn. I mean, one of my favourite war correspondents of all time. I reread some of her stuff recently, and the first batch of war reporting she did, I think, is the best war reporting I've ever read. Spanish Civil War, Vietnam, and then she spent 25 years writing novels, and then later on wrote about, I believe it was the Yom Kippur War, and was denying that massacres had happened and saying, you know, oh, Arabs lie, they always lie, there was no massacre. And we now know there was a massacre, or there were massacres in the aftermath of these wars. So I don't know what happens. I mean, maybe if you just do this for too long, you just become so cynical that you're open to these things. But I'm amazed that Seymour Hersh is open to that idea.
When the very people that are calling it, the very people that have boots on the ground and that are in these war zones and calling these things, when they become cynical and they become jaded, that's when it gets really, really sketchy. And we rely so heavily on people like you. Like I'm not going over there.
Yeah.
You know, Jamie's not going over there. Look at him. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and you wouldn't be able to really get, like, I know people that have gone to Venezuela and they come back and they go, I don't know what the fuck is going on over there. I don't know who to believe. I don't understand it. Venezuela is a very strange one. And I get messages all the time. And, you know, I've had Abby Martin who goes over there and she has one take on it. And I have other people that I talk to that have a different take on it. And I do not know. I don't know who to believe. And I think you'd have to go over there and you'd have to spend a lot of time to try to figure this out. And it would have to be the entire focus of your life to really try to parse it out.
I think that's true of a lot of conflicts. I mean, you know, one of the drawbacks of doing what I do is I'm covering 7 or 8 things at once. So I feel like I'm not expert enough in even Afghanistan, where I've covered that more than any other. But Venezuela is an interesting one because there's such a left-right divide on that. And if you support the opposition, then you find yourself alongside John Bolton and Donald Trump, which means that a lot of people are going to automatically attack you.
Right. Right. Automatically.
Yeah.
Even if it's correct.
And I think it's, you know, we can say without a doubt that Maduro has destroyed the economy there. Maduro has imprisoned, beaten, killed journalists. There is a movement there that do want genuine elections. But some people will say, well, just because George Bush in another area or John Bolton in this era support the opposition, therefore the opposition must be illegitimate and the information coming out must be false. And I wish people did rely on people who actually went there, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like they rely on the guy behind the glass desk on the news with the loud opinion, rather than the people who are actually there.
Well, we still have this idea in our head that the person who's reading the news is the authority. You know, that Don Lemon has the inside scoop, or whoever it is, you know.
And I think it used to be that those guys would spend 20 or 30 years traveling, and then they'd get the cushy job behind the glass desk in the studio. Now it seems like you can go straight to the cushy job behind the glass desk. You know?
Well, we just need someone who's relatable, who can read a teleprompter, you know, who fits the profile that they're looking for, whether it's Fox News or CNN, you know.
And also the information is there. You know, there are fantastic documentaries, articles being written about all of these conflicts.
Right.
People aren't reading them.
Well, with something like Venezuela, the real problem is you have two sides. You have two different versions of what's happening, and it's if you're not educated in that country and you don't understand their politics, it's very difficult to figure out who's telling the truth.
Yeah. Same with Syria.
Yeah.
So let's find one that we disagree on. I think you believe the official story of the JFK assassination? Do you?
More or less, yes.
More or less.
Yeah.
My belief, and this changes over time, I think that Lee Harvey Oswald was in on it. I think he was a part of it, but I think there were multiple people that were in on it. That's what I believe.
Do you think there are multiple shooters?
Yes. And one of the reasons why I believe that is because of the formation of the single bullet theory. And the single bullet theory was formed because the fact that they had to account for one bullet that hit the underpass, ricocheted off, and put some man in the hospital. And that before that, they did not have an explanation for why all of these bullet holes, all these wounds were in all these different people's bodies. The other reason why I'm inclined to believe there's a conspiracy was the fact that they found that bullet on Connolly's gurney when they brought him into the hospital. It's too convenient, and the bullet itself is fairly pristine. Now, knowing as much as I know about bullets from personal experience of hunting, you can't hit anything with a bullet. I pulled a lot of bullets out of animals. When you shoot an animal and you hit bone, those bullets, they distort brutally. I mean, they don't look like that after they go through two people and hit all sorts of bone. That's the bullet that came out of Connolly's body, or Connolly's gurney, excuse me. And that's the bullet that they're attributing to this single bullet theory. If you look at the path of the bullet that goes through Connolly, or goes through Kennedy and then goes through Connolly, that to me is not unbelievable.
It's not unbelievable.
That one is. But you got to look at the other one.
But even that one, see what I'm saying? Even that one is not unbelievable. It is believable to me because I know that bullets do strange things when they hit things.
Right, but you got to combine that with the fact that the bullet came out fairly pristine, which means it didn't actually go through a kind of a bouncy path like that.
Right.
It went through a straight path. This diagram is from
a conspiracy theorist book.
Essentially.
Yes. But the thing
there are
is,
other diagrams that will show the actual path with him. Like, they've got the butts there on the same level, and you know that Kennedy was actually sitting
he was
above
elevated.
Connolly.
Yes. So see if we can find one that has the actual seating arrangement or more accurate seating. Well, the one right there with the red line in the right-hand side, the one on the right-hand side, that's a more accurate.
From above, yeah.
Yeah, from above.
Yeah.
There's also the fact that there was particles. There was more metallic particles from the bullets, more fragments from the bullet in Connolly's body than were missing from the bullet. I do not believe that was the bullet, and I think that is a very reasonable assumption.
Well, you know what you should do? You should get one of those guns, get the same bullets, get some ballistic dummies with some bones inside, and start shooting.
They've already done that.
Yeah.
Penn and Teller did that.
Yeah, but some people have done it, and they have found pretty close to what actually happened.
No, they didn't.
Within the round.
No. Every bullet that hit bone got distorted. That's just what happens. When you shoot those bullets into water, or you shoot those bullets into like fluff or something like that doesn't have a lot of impact to slow the bullet down, then you get a bullet that looks like that. If you shoot a bullet into bone, they distort wildly.
But the bone was the last thing that it hit.
But it doesn't matter. It's still hitting bone.
But it stopped at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, didn't it hit bone in Kennedy's body as well?
Went through his neck, didn't it? So
the odds of it hitting only soft tissue, and it's going to go through his neck, and it came out here, that it didn't clip one of his vertebrae or something like that, I don't think that's real.
Yeah.
I think also there's a difference between, and this is fact, from David Lifton's book, Best Evidence, which was a book by an accountant who went over the Warren Commission report and found all these factual inaccuracies and all these contradictions. He found that there was a difference in the autopsy report at Bethesda, Maryland, the Bethesda Naval Hospital, versus what they had reported on the scene in Dallas. The first doctors that got a hold of Kennedy's body in Dallas before they flew him to Bethesda said that the hole in his neck was an entry wound. When they got to Maryland, they changed that to a tracheotomy hole. They changed the impact, and they said that it was. They said that this was not an impact from a bullet; that it was from something else.
Yeah, someone said they enlarged the hole to insert a trach tube.
Yeah. Well, I think. Well, there was also a lot of pressure on these people to try to wrap this up nice and tight and say that Lee Harvey Oswald was the shooter.
There was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this big thing about the CIA inventing the FBI? The FBI, well, inventing the term conspiracy theory was a CIA thing.
I think it was the CIA.
Yeah, and this was a couple of years after the assassination. There was a memo that went out where they were concerned about all these conspiracy theories that were coming out. And they used the term conspiracy theories, and then they said they should try to basically debunk them and make the people who spread them around look like conspiracy theorists, basically.
Right.
So that the theory is that the term conspiracy theory came from...
You should mention the
pre-dynastic,
the statue faces
in
the cemetery. How can you possibly do that by hand? This will wow you.
Yeah. So there's a whole category of aspects to the discussion around ancient technology, right? And I have to be kind of careful about what you say, oh, it is or it isn't, because in reality, we really haven't analysed that many artifacts. This vase work that we've done, first one we've actually taken a look at, that core, that's the first one and the only one that's really been analysed. So I characterise something that's beyond the capabilities of these primitive ancient civilizations as being, okay, machining marks, tool marks, like these giant circular saws, tube drills, precision, and there's elements to precision, and one of those is symmetry. And there's been some interesting studies done on the faces of giant statues. One in particular is the face of Ramses. There's a statue at Luxor. They've since put the head back up. It's up now 30 feet in the air on top of the statue, but it used to be on the ground. And again, Chris Dunn was real seminal in this. He went and took a photo, like bang on, like very front on, and then what he did was you take a copy of that photo, you make it 50% transparent, make the original 50% transparent, you take one and you flip it like on that horizontal axis, then you overlay them, right? So you would see like the left to right, it's like overlaying the left side on the right side, and it's perfect. It's this face here, but I wonder if you can find the picture of Chris Dunn. That's actually
There's your video right there.
Videos there as well, where I get into it.
But that's not that picture you're asking for.
No, it's similar, but it shows other aspects of, well, the same radius of tool being used to cut. But what's interesting about the symmetry, it's perfectly symmetrical, left to right. Now, this isn't a feature in humans. No human is perfectly symmetrical, different nostrils, different eyeballs. It's also not something that is done in artwork. So, people often say, well, Michelangelo, he carved David. It's a beautiful statue. I've seen it. It's incredible. But it's human. It's not symmetrical. Symmetrical is, you can't achieve that degree of symmetry just by eyeballing it and doing it by hand. And it's also something that's not really human. I think some of these statues almost look a bit inhuman because of that symmetry when they're up there and they're staring at you, because it's mind-blowing to actually go and look at them. But it's the other aspect is the most efficient way to create that would be to say, well, if you were going to design it in a computer, it's like, well, I'm going to create half this face in a program and map it out, and then I'm just going to reverse it and say, well, that's the other half. It's literally the most efficient way to do it, and that's kind of what we're seeing in some of these statues.
Go back to that image, please.
It's virtual perfection.
And what's the explanation for this that modern archaeologists use?
They did it by hand, right?
That's do it by hand. That's literally what they say. You just don't. They're not engineers and construction experts at the end of the day. That's the problem. So it's very difficult to engage them on those specific details. And I've taken many engineers, master stonemasons, stone carvers, construction guys, and a lot of them see it immediately. People that understand what it takes to both work in this material and to work at the scale that some of this stuff is worked in. They see it immediately, and they just dismiss the idea that this was done with literally pounding stones and, copper chisels. It's a funny thing. They insist those things are how they were done, but not once, no one ever has cut a single big slab of granite the size of a refrigerator in half. We've never gone that far. No one's demonstrated that, yep, you can take a copper bar and sand and grind your way through a refrigerator-sized block.
And you're saying copper because we think that they didn't have steel back then.
They didn't. Well, they didn't, and not until later. There's no evidence for it. There's evidence for copper and bronze.
There's no evidence for it when we're talking about 2500 BC.
Exactly.
Now, if there was some sort of very sophisticated civilization that was tens of thousands of years before that, and they were wiped out, and then you're leaving behind these artifacts, and then people are claiming them as their own, and then trying to copy them.
Imitation was a huge part of it, and we even see that. You go to the Egyptian Museum, and there's these beautiful igneous stone vases made of granite, and right next to them, in the same display, because they're found in the same place, there's a rough pottery vase that's not even turned, just put together by hand, and they've painted it with dots to make it look like granite, and it's shaped the same way as the granite vase. That's pure imitation. Like this here. I love this. This is one of my favorite examples. And this is like either first dynasty or pre-dynastic. But yeah, you have a hard igneous stone vessel made with perfection, and right next to what's clearly an imitation of it made from pottery, and they've even dotted it up to make it look like granite.
All the most sophisticated artifacts, pyramids, everything are all the oldest. It gets worse as it goes on, and that's not supposed to make sense. And when last time I was on with you, Joe, I was trying to articulate a point, which was that there was, a middle kingdom, there was the first kingdom, there was and there was these periods of revolt and revolution and missing history within Egypt, and there's 3 different kingdoms, and one of which was 126 years of lost history, another was over 200 years. And the one point to mention about that is that means that whoever took over and reestablished themselves, there's now no one alive at that period of time that was around prior to whatever it is that reset them, that government or whatever they were.
Yeah.
So if there's 126 years of lost history, no one is now alive to say what was what before that year one of 126 years.
with what just happened with Epstein, people you can't get away with this stuff anymore.
Well, what happened with Epstein, this is what I like about it.
Yeah.
It was so blatant and so outrageous that people go, hey, maybe they did fucking kill Kennedy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
They
maybe
absolutely did.
Maybe
and
they
I was
fucking
just
did.
doing shows in Fort Worth, and I was looking at these audiences, and I was going, they'd kill him again.
Yeah.
They'll kill him again. Give these people a couple of shots of tequila, another shot goes right through Kennedy's head.
Well, if there was another one like Kennedy, like
Right.
let's think if someone took over after Trump and this guy was trying to get rid of the NSA and get rid of the CIA, and you know, and then there was
going
some
at the
sort of
mafia and industrialists,
and there was some, and the mafia fucking got him into office in the first place.
100%,
So they were like, "Hey, you fucking piece of shit!
Yeah.
We're the reason why you're here. We rigged Chicago for you." And so then he has this military blunder, the Bay of Pigs, and so then the military's after him. Everybody's hangry.
He says he wants to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and give all like peacetime intelligence gathering capability to the military.
If we had someone like that, some guy like that, and by the way, he was fucking everything that moved too.
Yeah, I mean, and
It's
he
a
was
different world
doing
back
drugs
then.
and everything.
Woo!
You know, he was
on
enjoying
meth.
himself.
He was on meth.
That's crazy.
They had a doctor, Dr. Feelgood. That's where the name came from.
And they
the
would
fucking
go,
Motley Crue song.
Dr. Feelgood.
Dr. Feelgood.
Good. And it was Kennedy's doctor.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's when being president was a great job.
Well, they all were on it. That's how they fucking got the party moving.
Yeah. Just meth heads.
You're busy, man. You
Running,
got things
yeah,
to do. It's hard.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, listen, this is the argument for Trump being on amphetamines right now.
Yeah.
How the fuck else are you going to run a country?
Yeah. You have to be a little amped.
A little amped up.
He's definitely amped.
Got a little piece of something.
But I like seeing him. I like seeing him. You know, when he goes big.
What is this?
Sidebar: South Dakota today started a new campaign, anti-meth campaign, but it is onmeth.com, and meth, we're on it is the slogan. That
my
spent over
God.
450 grand.
I mean, there's not anybody.
What? You spend how much?
450 grand of taxpayer money to figure this out.
Oh my God.
This is
Meth
why people
addiction.
hate the government, because nobody was able to stop this and say, hey, this is not the best.
This is the dumbest fucking ad campaign I've ever seen in my life. Meth, we're on it. That sounds like a fucking Onion article.
It's like a rap song or something. Bad rap song.
This is so.
Doesn't it seem like an Onion article?
I love what it says. It goes, South Dakota has a problem. There isn't a single solution because meth is widespread, but we can approach it from different angles so it doesn't take over counties, towns, neighborhoods. Let's work together. Meth, we're on it. God.
What's up with that fucking brown water? Turn that back up. Put that back on. How about you fix that fucking toilet water you got your kids swimming around in?
Yeah.
Look at that water. It's disgusting.
Yeah, meth
You
is
got
probably
more than one problem.
Yeah, meth is not even in the top 10 problems in South Dakota. Meth is what you need to get on to fix the other problems in South Dakota. The whole town council's got to
Yeah,
have some
you need
meth.
to start cleaning.
But Epstein, they just charged guards. I mean, this is hilarious.
Yes.
This is a very funny comic. Nick Mullen on Twitter was like, "Oh yeah, this is the justice we all wanted. The guards." You
Well,
know?
no, here's what's
Not
good.
the-
Two prison
yeah.
guards tasked with watching Jeffrey Epstein on night he killed himself. They should fucking charged with falsifying records.
And conspiracy.
And conspiracy. Here's why that's good. Somebody paid those guys, and they're going to sing, or they're going to die. Something's going to happen. Either they're going to take those guys.
I think it's a way to satiate the public. I don't think I don't think that Barr, the Attorney General, has any real desire to get to the bottom of what happened. I mean, this is clearly, obviously, sexual blackmail. Epstein was involved with intelligence, whether it's U.S., whether it's Mossad, it's somebody. His island was a honeypot. He had powerful people in compromising positions. He was probably like an access agent where he would give these intel agencies access to insanely powerful people, ex-presidents, people like that. So there, if you don't want to open up that wound because it's never going to stop bleeding, and guys like Barr who are this is a guy that's participated in multiple cover-ups. I don't think he has any really interest in. He's a lifelong government official. You could say deep state, you could say whatever it is, but he's just a career. His job is to protect the interest of these power factions in Washington, these government agencies. There's no way they open this up. And there was no way that they could have had Jeffrey Epstein in open court pointing fingers at maybe prime ministers and presidents. It would tear countries apart. It would be the biggest political scandal in our lifetime.
I just can't believe they just murked him like that, though. They didn't just murk him. They murked him twice. Here's what I want to know. When he tried to commit suicide the first time, were the cameras broken then, too?
Great question. I don't know.
How come we never heard that?
Well, we didn't see any footage of him. I've never seen any footage of him in his cell. I mean, they haven't released any footage of the cameras ever working, right? I mean, from what I can understand.
Did they even comment on it? Remember the first time that he attempted to commit suicide?
I think they got it. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, I think they found him. They transferred him. I don't know if they have photographic evidence of him doing that.
Google what happened the first time Epstein tried to kill himself. Because that's an interesting thing.
And where is it's a very interesting.
So do they know for sure? Did they watch the footage and see him tying a rope around his neck?
And then they went in and go, next time you got to do it like this. You tie the knot stronger. You take off from the chair.
My favorite thing was his cellmate. The cellmate that they gave him.
Oh yeah, which is like a cop who
gorilla cop
from Westchester.
Huge skinhead looking dude, Italian guy,
coked out,
giant muscles, who killed a bunch of fucking people and sold drugs.
Just him and Epstein, and they got along.
He was like the Hollywood stereotype of the last guy you would want in your fucking cell.
Be in a cell with.
Big Guido, ex-corrupt cop with giant muscles.
Yeah.
It's like
this monster.
And connected to the law. I mean, it just seemed like if that's the guy. I mean, that would be the guy that maybe he's the guy who killed him.
Who knows?
I mean, he's a giant fucking guy.
I mean, guys like that, I'm sure would take a bribe pretty easily, and and those guys don't open their mouths.
Just
you know,
for fucking cigarettes.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I mean, he can't open his mouth. He's in jail.
Right.
They got him locked up, and they go look.
And who knows? And listen, if
Tommy, come on.
Right, Tommy, do this.
Tommy, you're here forever. You like killing people.
Last night during the Golden Globes was going on, there were some jokes going on by Ricky Gervais that we can probably talk about later, but 60 Minutes was probably going on a different channel at the same time, and they had a report with some new evidence that nobody has seen yet.
Oh, jeez.
They have some autopsy photos and photos from inside his cell.
Whoa.
Yeah,
so
the photo.
Are the photos online?
Yeah, I'll get them.
Of course they are.
Yeah, I didn't know this was just released. I saw this last night, and I saw one of the photos, and it looks real.
So I watched the 15 minutes that they put together, which is mostly just about like the incident in the cell and surrounding it. I'm just going to show you the pictures though, because we can't watch their thing. Let me try to get the 13 images because they're all.
Am I scared?
No, I mean it's just.
I'm scared already. I'm scared already because of Iran. I don't want to be scared of this video of them whacking this dude. You know they whacked him. Yes. That's 100%. The fact that they thought they can get away with that, that's so crazy. Like, that is such a crazy thing to try to get away with. This gigantic international case. Hey, what happened to the cameras? Oh, I'm fucking broke, man. I don't know. Sucks. Guy hung himself.
They needed a couple days to make the videos and stuff like that.
Bro,
like,
he tried. Yeah, exactly. That's the problem
these are
with
so
today.
fake.
He tried to hang himself before. And they're like, hey, don't do that again. And he's like, all right, I won't. Give me my belt. Give me my shoelaces. Give me whatever the fuck that guy strangled me with.
Yeah, these photos are all fake, right?
No, hold on.
I mean,
I don't know why it's not.
They're very realistic.
We need Eddie Bravo in here immediately.
Okay, here we go. I'll pull this up here. So this is from his cell. This is inside there. I'll put these up on the screen. So this was the cell he was in by himself.
Okay.
They said he used a bunch of these orange jumpsuits, which I guess were already in there.
He tied them around his head?
I guess there is a little like spot way up here on the top of the grate where the window is, where you could see maybe there was something up there. But the thing to remember here is that he was about 6 foot tall, 185 pounds. There's one other thing like on this ladder here. There is also some other things I'll get into in just a second that would be easier to use than tying all this shit together. But they showed, there's the other thing here was this. This was about 4 feet off the ground. And they do show a noose, which they're saying was what he used. But as the doctor sort of said, that the noose that they show a picture of, which is what you can see in the top right corner here. Which is playing
oh, that's Dr. Michael Baden. That's that guy from the HBO autopsy show.
For some reason, I can't, I'll find it in a second, but the picture that shows his actual neck doesn't seem like this noose caused that wound. And it's a little bit lower than it probably should have been.
Oh, Jesus.
So they're showing some of these other, this is some of the pictures of him. This is the bone, his jaw, the holioid bone.
His jaw was broken?
Well, there's the fracture that they said wasn't consistent with hanging. It's more consistent with a murder or homicide. And he said this is Baden's words, is that usually he's seen it in maybe like one bone break and sometimes two, but there were 3 fractures. And he says like he's almost never seen that in any of his cases he's ever looked over.
And you would think it would be, if you're going to hang yourself from such a short distance, it would be even harder to get a fracture like that, right? Because you're not like jumping off like in an old Western movie, like Clint Eastwood movie, when they would hang him high.
So the one thing that they also had in here was he left a note.
Oh, Jesus.
The note said like there was like 4 things. It said first that it had the name blurred out, but it said this person left him in a shower locked for an hour. It then said someone else gave him like burnt food, and then bugs were crawling over his hands, and then he just wrote no fun. But there's a ballpoint pen like the one I have in my hand sitting right next to it. And they're like, if you knew he was on suicide watch, you wouldn't give him a ballpoint pen that he could kill himself with.
Jamie, you should be a goddamn detective.
Well, this
for
is what
CSI.
they're saying. And he had his sleep apnea machine was in there. It was you could see an extension cord coming from the hallway into his room. That he could have just used that to kill himself and hang himself.
Or the
way
9
easier.
jumpsuits. Why does he have 9 jumpsuits?
Yeah, the jumpsuit thing is freaky. Like they're trying to explain it by bringing in some new witness.
So somehow this is actually a different video that's showing a couple of different things than what I saw this morning. I didn't see this arm thing, and I didn't see the picture of his
But
back.
the arm thing looks like an injection spot. Is that what it looks like?
I guess so. Here's the actual. This is what I saw. Here's the note.
What does it say? Sorry.
So it says, like,
it's not 60 Minutes get their watermark all over it. It's so funny. Sorry, 60 Minutes. Thank you. Thanks for getting this.
So it
What
says,
is it?
kept me in a locked, it's blurred right here. It says the
Right.
name is blurred. Kept me in a locked shower stall for 1 hour. Someone, I don't know the name, sent in burnt food. Giant bugs crawled on my hands, and then no fun. And then they're saying, and then he killed him. But then this ballpoint pen was next to it. That he could have stabbed himself in the neck or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to kill yourself with a pen.
Yeah.
But
do they get pens?
That's
Not usually, but this is like a,
high profile case.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just.
Yeah,
Boy,
I don't think you should
look,
have a pen.
It might look. It's bad to say either way if you don't know, and I'm guilty of that 100%. I'm like, that guy didn't kill himself. I'm talking shit though. I'm not talking in terms of like we have to understand. This is really important.
Here's the.
We're doing a podcast. When you're doing a podcast, you don't have to be factually accurate. You just have to talk shit. And hopefully if you fuck up, you correct it and it's funny. I'm not a science expert, but when these guys are saying that the guy died by strangulation, there's all these points of consistent strangulation, and it takes forever to get these pictures, and then there's the video cameras didn't work, and this is the second time he tried to kill himself, and he's a high-profile witness in a really, really, really important case involving pedophiles at the highest levels of government. Yeah, I would think that that's the kind of guy you whack.
You're also, according to the procedure, you're not when there's a suicide there, you're not supposed to remove the body and take it to the emergency room. You're supposed to treat it as though it was a murder or like a crime scene.
What's crazy is that it's so high profile. Like even because this is most likely how they did it forever, right? Like people that whack people, they were probably like, I was doing comedy before the internet. they were probably whacking people before the internet, right?
Do you want to see? I found the graphic image.
Sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I'm not scared.
Don't see if you don't want to see it, Brian. But
I saw that. He has weird texture on his cheek, I thought.
Interesting, Brian.
Like
Tell me more.
Like bed marks, almost like he was. Maybe
I think that's just the blood rushing to his head. Yeah. Bro, that guy got strangled. That looks like a strangled guy.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Or choked from a...
But the thing is, like...
There's no blood on that. That's
no.
the thing. There's no blood on that noose that they said was the noose that did it. And
there's no blood on his body.
And there's no pictures of him in the cell. They didn't take any pictures of that.
Wait, hold on. There's no blood on the noose they said killed him, but yet there's blood on his neck?
Correct. That was pointed out by the
that's
reporter.
insane.
In the scene,
that's
in the
insane.
Too, right?
That's impossible.
No.
Did they really do a test of the rope that they supposedly said
just showed
hung
a picture
him?
of it, and it looks very clean and unused. And
well, it is orange. Right. Maybe the red doesn't show up that clean on orange. Can we look at it again?
I think this.
I think we should probably look. I want to say for sure they killed him.
And the lawyer she's talking to in the piece is his former cellmate's lawyer, and he's just, no, it's obviously.